I knew there was a better way, so I did a little bit more research, and of course doing digital marketing, I was a lot more online, and I got to know more about SaaS tools. So when I first started my marketing agency, all alone, one-man show, I didn't know a lot about SaaS tools. In fact, I worked a lot in Korea, and in Korea, while the internet speed might be one of the fastest in the world, the digital infrastructure and the whole idea about SaaS, there's not a lot of widespread SaaS adoption in South Korea. So when I first started, when we did our proposal, or when I did, because I worked alone, but when I did my proposals, my invoices, my contracts, my work in general, a lot of it was manually. So I used a lot of spreadsheets, just regular documents, and even with, for example, contract signing, I did that manually. I printed it out, I hand signed it, I scanned it, and I emailed it back. Now, after a few months of that, I knew there was a better way, so I did a little bit more research, and of course, doing digital marketing, I was a lot more online, and I got to know more about SaaS tools, and I took a deep dive into what SaaS was and what kind of tools were out there, and that changed the game. That changed my life. Changed my business, and I was able to scale a lot faster and more efficiently. So that's why I wanted to do this video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the most basic and must-have, and what I find to be the best, and I recommend to my friends, my family, my colleagues, and hopefully you guys, on what you need to be using before you start your agency, before you start getting clients. In fact, if you don't have these done, or if you don't have these set up and working, you're going to have a tough time. All right, so let's go right into it. Number one, the most basic thing is email. Yeah, there's a lot of free email providers out there. There's Gmail is a great one, but you don't want to be sending your clients, your potential clients, emails from @Hotmail, @Gmail, whatever. You want to be sending from your own domain. Speaking of domain, so if you don't have a website set up, what I like to use, I'm using G Suite. That's the one thing I would recommend to everyone watching, or if you're just starting out. Of course, there's a ton of other providers out there. I haven't tried every single one, but G Suite has been my favorite. I'm using it across 2 or 3 of my businesses. And with G Suite, the great thing is, I think the lowest plan starts at around $6 a month. But not only are you getting that email hosted on your own domain, but you are getting access to the full Google workspace, or most of the workspace. That includes Google Docs, Google Sheets, and most importantly, G Drive. I think you get around 30 gigs for the lowest plan, and that should be more than enough. And if you do need more and you don't want to upgrade to any of the other tiers, you could upgrade simply the amount of space you need for G Drive. And I use the workspace quite often. Google Docs, Google Sheets is something great to use with your team, sometimes with your clients, and even freelancers or any other places you might outsource work to. And also, if you're not using, or if you're not adamant about having some sort of white labeled meeting platform, you also get access to Google Meets, which is a great plus. I want to recommend one more. If you're not into Google, you're not into G Suite, I've been using Zoho at another business of mine. Zoho One and Zoho was originally the first SaaS I've ever used. I tested it out when I first got into what SaaS was and all that jazz, and I couldn't use it. I'm not technical, but I focus a lot more on design and UI and UX, and just Zoho didn't cut it for me. However, I went back to Zoho and I tried it out. They did a quick update, or not a quick update, did a major UI overhaul, and it's a pleasure to use. So if you're not into Google, go check out Zoho. They have almost the equivalent of every single thing that Google has, maybe more, maybe less, but if I had to recommend 2, those are the 2 I would recommend for email. Number 2 would be proposals. So proposals are one of the first things that your potential clients are going to be seeing from you, and that is going to sway their decision on whether or not they want to work with you. So you want to make sure your proposals look nice, are professional, but more than that, have value and substance. And proposals are an extension of your brand. So you want your proposals to look nice. And originally, like I mentioned earlier, when I first started, I wrote our proposals in documents, or sometimes in the very beginning in emails, and I just sent those out. After I found out about SaaS tools, proposal software really makes your life easier. It's going to be better than anything you can actually design yourself if you're not a designer. And one of the great things with proposal software is they already provide templates too. You can set up your own templates, so you don't have to rewrite everything and set everything up. It makes your life easy. The UI UX on the back end, when you're working on it, is really easy to use. But even more importantly is from the client side, when they're viewing your proposal, instead of getting it through, for example, maybe one of your competitors who might have sent it by email, or who might have just created a simple Word document or PDF, the UX of the way, depending on what software you're using, but the way it's presented really is a game changer for a lot of these companies. We've had countless emails from even some from major companies that have told us we've never seen such a beautiful proposal before. So that being said, the first one, or almost the only proposal software that I would recommend to you guys, would be betterproposals.com. It was one of the first ones I used, and then I left it to go for a little bit cheaper or even some lifetime deals and things like that. But I always end up coming back. I've never found a proposal software yet that is as great as Better Proposals. If I had to give another recommendation for a proposal software outside of Better Proposals, the one I've used the longest is Nuci, so N-U-S-I-I. It's not as pretty and nice, I guess, as Better Proposals, but it gets the job done. The great thing about all this proposal software is that you're able to check how many times they've opened the proposal, what they're doing there, and depending on what software you're using. But these kind of small, minor details that are specialized for proposal software really make your life easier, and it makes it easier closing the client once you put all these things together. So the next one, after you get those proposals out, your potential clients like them, they want to move forward. What do you have to do? You need a contract. You need a legally binding contract. You do not want to mess around with the legal stuff. I don't know anything about that. I had an actual lawyer work on mine as a freelancer in the very beginning and after that. Number 3, contracts and e-signature SaaS platforms or e-signature platforms. With the legal stuff, you don't want to mess around. You don't want to play around. You definitely want a contract in place. Most companies, even small mom and pop shops, will want a contract, not just for themselves, but for you as well. And to do that, I used to, like I said, all of this is based on my experience. So when I first started, I wrote out a contract in a Word document. I printed it out, I signed it, I scanned it, and sent it back to them by email for scanning or for signatures. That was a tedious process when I started closing more and more clients. And then I found out about e-signatures. With e-signatures, the great thing was they already have contract templates there. You can change out some of the placeholders and whatnot. Makes your life easy. You don't have to pay for a lawyer, but I do advise having an actual lawyer look through it to make sure it fits your business. And most of these e-signature platforms that specialize with contracts and other documents, they are legally binding e-signature or legally binding signatures. They are e-sign and UETA compliant, and many companies across the world use them, especially today where meeting people is not as easy as it used to be. And so DocuSign is a platform I would like to recommend. It is pretty much standard nowadays. I think it is the industry standard. Very great platform. If I had to recommend one more or an alternative, I would check out PandaDoc, which I am using for one of my other businesses. PandaDoc, you can start off free. PandaDoc also has multiple templates, very easy to use, like DocuSign. There's EverSign, PandaDoc. All these platforms, you're able to check in on where the recipient is in terms of the contract workflow. And some of these platforms, you can automate that workflow and really streamline the entire process. So you'll be able to see when they've opened the contract, when they've viewed the contract, or opened and viewed the contract, when they've signed the contract, sent it back, if they have comments or they rejected it for any kind of reason. Most of the platforms will have all of these in there. So you just have to look through the sites and figure out which one is fit for you. Now, number 4, after the contract signing, at least for us, that is our process. After that contract signing, we shoot out the invoice, and for us, we don't work until we get paid. Of course, sometimes we'll do 50%, sometimes we'll do full payment up front for the first month at least, depending on the contract size. Now, with the invoicing, also super important. For me, again, I use spreadsheets when I first started because that's what I learned at the companies that I used to work at in South Korea. However, invoicing to me is also part of your brand. It's a representation of your brand. So for me, I wanted my invoices to be very professional with our branding on there or with our logo on there. And I wanted our invoices to be very professional. So not just professional, but to make my life easier instead of working on these spreadsheets, shooting it by email, double checking on the dates to follow up. And so I want to talk about accounting software or keeping track of your books. All of these platforms have invoicing. And if you're providing any services based on subscriptions, most likely you're using some payment gateway providers like Stripe, Braintree, to checkout, and so on. And so if you're using something like Stripe, you can send out your invoice using Stripe. Now, if you're not using a specific payment gateway, there's a lot of accounting software or bookkeeping software out there that also has invoicing attached, where you can integrate your banking so that people can pay, or your customers can pay directly from that invoice with one click. So one of the software tools that I'm using for invoicing and also to keep track for our books is Xero. So Xero with an X, Xero. Great platform. A lot of companies are using it. I think they have over 2 million users that trust them. So you definitely can't go wrong there. And so two other alternatives I want to bring up is one, Wave Apps, because that's how I got started. And of course, the way I got started was looking for free stuff or lower pricing that will fit the picture and keep my expenses down. Wave Apps is completely free, so that is something you might want to check out. One more I want to talk about is Fiscal, so Fiskl. Yeah, I know everyone likes to spell things differently, but Fiscal, also I am using currently for one of my other businesses. But Fiscal, also very, very beautiful. The UI is pretty. I know I focus a lot on UI. You might want to focus on function a little bit. But Fiscal works, everything works. People can pay, or customers can pay directly from the invoice. And Fiscal, the invoices can be customized. They look good. You can send them out directly from the platform or the software, meaning you don't have to, get the link for the invoice and write the email and shoot it out. You can send it out right after you make the invoice. Follow-ups are one click. So all these software tools, the purpose of which are to make your life easier, make your workflow more efficient, and hopefully help you close clients better. And last in this video, but probably not last in your software tool set, is a CRM. So that stands for Customer Relation Management, which is exactly what we are doing, right? All of us, or most of us, or if you're watching and you're trying to be an agency owner, or you are an agency owner, that's what we do. We are providing services for our customers or our clients. So CRM is something you want to focus on. In the beginning, you might think that you don't need a CRM because it's like, hey, I don't have any clients. Why am I going to pay for something like this? Well, number one, you don't have to pay. Number two, you should be focusing on this because when the time comes and you do grow, which I hope you do, is you're going to get stuck trying to fix all the problems and set up all these solutions when the client needs their deliverables. And you're going to be rushing to do both sides and it's just not going to work. I've done it. It sucked. And so if you feel you don't need to pay for an actual software that is specialized with CRMs, I totally understand. That's how I also started. However, I didn't know what a CRM was, so I was using spreadsheets for them. So if you feel that way, you can use something like Kanban boards. Trello is something that a lot of people know of. It's very easy to use. You can start off free. However, if you want to get a system up in place, one of the platforms I would recommend is HubSpot. That would be the first one I recommend. HubSpot, King of the Kings, or King of Kings. It's how I got started. They also have a generous free tier, but one thing to know is that as you scale or as you grow, HubSpot can become very, very expensive. HubSpot's also not simply a CRM, but there's many, many other parts and functions that HubSpot can fulfill. Some other tools, some other CRMs that I would recommend or that I have used myself is if you're moving over from Trello or a Kanban board style sales pipeline, Pipedrive. Pipedrive is really easy to use. It's ridiculously easy to use, as they say, and I definitely recommend it. You have a full view of your pipeline right in front of you. It works like a Kanban board. You're able to see where everyone is or where each lead and prospect is in their journey and act on that, ultimately close the deal. And the great thing about Pipedrive is as your software arsenal grows, you'll see that Pipedrive really does integrate with everything. And one more alternative, it's also something that I use. It is relatively new. I think I got in when they first launched, is SalesFlare. SalesFlare, also very awesome, especially if you're using G Suite. It directly integrates or natively integrates with Gmail. So you're able to open up SalesFlare directly in Gmail. Because SalesFlare natively integrates with Gmail, when it's able to tell you when each lead has opened an email or how many times they've opened it, if you need to respond or follow up with a certain person, you can see all that and get the notifications from that with SalesFlare. So whatever CRM you use, you need to understand why you're using it and why it's important. It is super important and valuable in any business, but especially for agencies, because if you ever lose or forget to follow up with certain leads, which I have many, many times before setting up our CRM, is that you are losing potential revenue. You're losing money. And just to reiterate what I said earlier is if you feel that you don't need a CRM right now because you don't have any leads, you don't have a sales pipeline, you don't have clients, if you're doing everything right, you're hitting hitting all the right spots, and you are bound to grow, and I hope you are. When the time comes, it's going to be too late. I mean, it's never too late, but you're going to be rushing to try to set all of this up while you're trying to deliver your deliverables and perform for your clients. So it definitely helps to have all of this prepared before going out there and trying to close clients. Those are the 5 basic or must-have tools, the fundamental tools that should build up your arsenal of software for any agency owner out there. And in my opinion, it's really important, well, not just my opinion, from my experience, it's really important to have these tools set up before you go out and try to close all of your clients. The other thing is, you'll see that from the list of software that I just mentioned, proposals, invoices, contracts, and so on, a lot of that will help you close actual clients as well. And there's going to be a lot of other tools you need. It's not just these 5, but I just want to get the basics or the fundamental software out of the way, because you'll need, depending on what services you provide, you'll need SEO tools, content tools, social media marketing tools, and so on and so forth, including, of course, productivity tools, which everyone knows and loves. But without addressing these core functions with software tools that will make your business and workflow more efficient, you're gonna have a hard time. And the last thing I want to say is that the SaaS industry and the tech industry is so fast-paced that everything, all the tools that I mentioned right now, so all the specific tools I mentioned right now, they might not collapse or anything like that, but things change. So it's really important to follow the trends, find out the new tools. I really am passionate about SaaS, so I enjoy trying out new software tools and learning about them, watching them grow, see how they change the game, because there's a lot of game changers out there. And you'll see that a lot of, especially the tech space, the SaaS space, a lot of mergers and acquisitions, especially in the SaaS space, you'll see a lot of startups or even big companies get acquired by bigger companies. So you never know what's going to happen, but that doesn't change the fact that these 4 items that I believe that every agency should have, for example, proposals, invoices, contracts, CRM, so on, you'll always need. It's just that some of these tools might change down the road. And if they do, I'll update everyone. And if you like finding out more about SaaS startups or new SaaS tools and great tech out there, go check out SaaStronautics. It's another company of mine. And we that's what we do. We go out and hunt for new SaaS tools, and we love and enjoy meeting with creators, people that create software, and helping them grow. Okay, so that wraps it up for the basic tools that I believe that every agency owner should be using for their business. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.